If you are self-employed, a freelancer, or part of the gig economy in Canada, and you are worried about the upcoming tax season, let me take some of the burden off your shoulder. Hi, I'm Gabrielle, a CPA and tax expert with over 10 years of experience, and in today's video, we'll be covering what is a sole proprietor, the importance of bookkeeping, income tax filing, as well as GST HST tax filing. Plus, if you are looking for step-by-step tutorials, best practices as a sole proprietorship, the latest tools and templates, and live case studies, which can't be covered in this short YouTube video, then you can also check out my course, Bookkeeping and Taxes for Sole Proprietors. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. So what is a sole proprietor? Let's start with the basics. What exactly is a sole proprietor? Simply put, a sole proprietorship is the most straightforward way to run a business in Canada. It's a business that's owned and operated by an individual, meaning there's no legal separation between you and your business. So how does that differ from an incorporated business like a corporation? Well, with an incorporated business, you have a separate legal entity and you're protected from certain liabilities. With a sole proprietorship, however, all business debts and obligations are tied directly to you. So if your business runs into trouble, your personal assets could also be at risk. Being a sole proprietor offers simplicity, lower upfront costs, and less administrative burden than an incorporated business. But it also comes with the responsibility of managing your finances, especially when it comes to taxes. And this is where a proper bookkeeping system becomes a game changer. Bookkeeping. Bookkeeping is the cornerstone of maximizing your tax savings as a sole proprietor. If you want to claim maximum write-offs, you got to stay on top of your bookkeeping. A lot of self-employed individuals miss out on huge deductions simply because they don't have a proper system in place. Because at the end of the day, you could only really write off the expenses that you recorded, right? Also, many people don't realize that you can deduct things like home office expenses, vehicle costs, and depreciation on capital assets like laptops or office furniture. These deductions can really add up and potentially shave off thousands of dollars from your tax bill. Bookkeeping doesn't have to be complicated. It's basically like budgeting for your business. In my course, I show you exactly how to set up an efficient bookkeeping system, as well as provide you with the latest bookkeeping template so that you can track everything properly and ensure that you're claiming all the deductions that you're entitled to. Income tax filing for sole proprietors. Now let's get into your income tax filing obligations. As a sole proprietor, you are required to file your personal tax return called the T1 income tax and benefit return, which includes all your personal income and expenses. Now, remember how we first covered that a sole proprietorship means that there is no legal distinction between you and the business. Well, that means that your self-employed or your sole proprietor income and expenses also get reported on your T1, but it's done using a form called the T2125 Statement of Business or Professional Activities. Here's the key thing. Your business's income is treated as personal income, so it's taxed at your individual tax rate. You will have to pay taxes on the net income after deducting the business expenses. This is where your bookkeeping comes in. You'll need to ensure all your expenses are accounted for because every deductible expense reduces the amount of taxes that you owe. Perhaps the most important thing is to pay and file your taxes on time. Missing the filing deadline can result in penalties and interest, and not to mention the stress. The last time I checked, the interest rate on overdue taxes is 8%. And this is actually a reduced rate from last year where it was upwards of 10%. The deadline to file your T1 return is by April 30th, but for sole proprietors, you have until June 15th to file. However, there's a catch here. You have to pay your taxes by April 30th. I know it's confusing because the filing deadline is after the payment deadline, but basically the CRA wants their share of taxes sooner than later. So if your bookkeeping is not ready by April 30th, pay an estimate first with some extra cushion to avoid the penalties and interest if you end up underpaying your taxes. That way, if you file by June 15th and get all your numbers sorted out and you overpaid your taxes on April 30th, then you can get a refund rather than being in a situation of underpaying your taxes and being subject to penalties and interest. When it comes to best practices, just try to get your bookkeeping done by April 30th so that you could both file and pay the exact amount of taxes that you owe and just get it over with. In my course, I will go over the entire T1 and T2125 form and show show you how to fill it out step by step. I'll also guide you on how to plan for your next year's taxes so that you're proactively planning to minimize your taxes instead of being caught off guard every single year with how much taxes you owe. GST HST tax filing. Next, let's talk about GST HST tax filing. First of all, what is GST HST? It's sales tax that you pay on goods and services and is completely separate from your income tax obligations. As a consumer or customer, if you go out to buy coffee or you pay for a haircut, you will have noticed that you pay sales tax on top of the price of the good or service. Now, as a business owner, you are required to collect the sales tax on the goods and services that you sell and remit the sales tax to the CRA. Sounds like a lot of work, right? But here's the good news. You can also claim back the GST HST that you paid on your business expenses. This is known as input tax credits, or ITCs for short, and it helps reduce your overall GST HST payable amount or even put you in a refund position. You are required to register for GST HST if your taxable sales exceed $30,000 annually, or you can register voluntarily if it's beneficial to you, such as if you are in a refund position. As mentioned, GST HST is a separate tax from your personal income tax and applies to most goods and services sold in Canada. However, there are exemptions such as most medical services as well as zero-rated supplies if you sell to customers outside of Canada. You will have to file your GST HST return quarterly, annually, or based on your business's sales volume. The CRA sets a schedule for your filing frequency, but you can always choose to file annually if your sales are under a certain threshold. Lastly, make sure to file your GST HST return on time, because if you're late, you've guessed it, you'll be charged with interest. The current prescribed interest rate is 8% for late GST HST tax payments. Similar to the income tax filing deadlines, the deadline to file your GST HST is by June 15th, but your GST HST payment due date is actually April 30th. As mentioned, to avoid the confusion, best practice is to file and pay by April 30th. GST HST can be a complicated topic, so I make sure to break it down in my course on when to collect GST HST, how to claim input tax credits, and on how to file your GST HST return step by step. Now you have a basic understanding of your tax obligations as a sole proprietor. I know it can feel overwhelming at first, but once you learn the ropes, you'll realize it's not as difficult as it seems, and it's actually quite empowering to take control of your own business finances. If you want to set up a proper bookkeeping system, file your sole proprietor return and your GST HST tax return while minimizing your tax bill and proactively plan for next year's taxes, I invite you to check out my course, Bookkeeping and Taxes for Sole Proprietors. I created this course specifically for sole proprietors because at this stage in your business, hiring a professional tax accountant might not be worth the cost. You're paying a minimum $800 for tax filing without a guarantee that your best interests are prioritized, especially during the busy tax season when accounting firms handle hundreds of clients. The real value of a tax professional comes when you're earning at least six figures and at the stage when you're considering whether to incorporate your business. So check out the description box down below for the details. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!